All right, so we're back. Um, so let's look at it. We're looking at subtraction, and what is suggesting here? When you're subtracting,
Mm-hmm.
you change to adding the opposite. You change to what? Adding the
Okay.
opposite. So
Opposite.
that's a different technique. Although I didn't teach it using that technique per se, I just basically say
Mm-hmm.
change to a single sign. But we can actually think of it that way
Okay.
as well. So let's look at it. So we have -3. Let's look over
Okay.
here. We're focusing on the subtraction. So we have -3
Mm-hmm.
minus positive 4.
Mm-hmm.
What they're saying that you should do. All right. So you're gonna have -3.
We change the sign.
Change change the negative, right, to positive. So you add in the opposite.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're subtracting, you add.
Yeah.
And what's the opposite of +4? Negative.
-4.
Okay, good. And when you add in two numbers with the same sign, what do?
You subtract them.
With the same sign,
Sorry,
you
you
add
add them. Sorry.
you add them, which will give us 7, and do what with the sign?
-7.
-7. That's that. And the same now, let's look at the next example that I have here, -5, and we're going to subtract -9. Whenever you're subtracting, you do what? Add the opposite, right?
Mm-hmm.
So -5,
Positive.
I'm going to change this to a plus, change subtraction to
Mm-hmm.
addition,
9.
and the opposite of -9 is 9 or +9. Now,
Mm-hmm.
because they have the opposite signs, what do?
We subtract
Which give us a 4, and which one has a larger absolute value, the 9 or the -5?
the 9.
All right, so we're going to keep positive. So that's our answer, +4.
Mm-hmm.
Clear?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if you see that, notice that they actually did it here. They changed this minus sign to a plus, and the opposite of
Mm-hmm.
-9 is +9.
Positive.
And then
Yeah.
you basically,
But you don't really have to put the sign in front of the 9 like that.
no, you don't, because it's in
Because you
brackets.
already have it in the middle.
Right, because, well, no. This plus sign is not for this one. This is an addition sign, and this is a positive sign. So the difference between the addition sign and the positive sign, I mean, they look the same, but we're saying two different things still. But I'm saying you don't
Oh.
have to do it because it's actually in a bracket, and it's once it's in a bracket,
Mm-hmm.
it's suggesting that it's +9.
That is positive.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
But I put it there so you can actually notice that it is a positive sign.
No. Yeah.
All right, just for
Mm-hmm.
the beginner stage.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so you know that hey, it's a positive sign there, but you don't have to put it there. No. So, for instance, I did not put the positive in front of the 4, but we know it's a
Right.
+4
Mm-hmm.
because once a positive number follows the equal sign, you do not need to put it. Once it follow me comes
Right.
after the equal sign, you do not need to put the positive sign. So
Okay.
once a positive number comes after the equal sign, you don't need to put it.
Mm-hmm.
But if it were negative, of course, you'd have to show that.
Yeah.
So you're clear on that?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
All right. All right, so let's look at multiplying and dividing now. Multiplication and division is very easy. If the signs are the same, when you're multiplying or dividing, the answer is going to be positive.
So they don't have the same rule, right?
No, it just, the numbers have nothing to do with it. It's just whether you're multiplying two positive numbers or dividing two positive numbers, or you're dividing two negative numbers or multiplying two negative numbers. Or let's say
Okay.
you are multiplying two numbers with different
Mm-hmm.
signs. It's just once the
Mm-hmm.
signs are the same, your answer is going to be positive. Once the signs are
Okay.
different, your answer is going to be a negative number. Clear?
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, let's look at some examples so you can actually see that. Although it's much harder to illustrate, um, that's that. But we can illustrate it actually. But let's look at it. It's -5 times -1. What's the answer there?
-5.
-5. Good. No, it will be -5. Let's try it again. I know why I said -5 because you're seeing the negative, so you just keep negative. You're saying 5
Yeah.
times 1 is 5 and keep the sign. No,
Same sign.
keeping the sign has to do with addition. When you're multiplying, here's the rule. Same sign, the answer should be what?
Oh, same side, positive answer.
Right.
Okay, okay.
Got it now? All right, so
Yeah.
let's do the next one. -4 times -2. 4 2 is going to give us 8. What sign should we have?
Positive 8 or
Positive 8.
8.
Because remember, the rule for multiplication is different. It has nothing to do with
Oh,
the numbers. Just once you're multiplying,
okay.
right. In other words, negative times negative will give you what?
Negative
Positive.
times negative, positive.
Right. Negative times positive will give
Okay.
you what?
Negative.
Right. So that's what we're doing here. So I just illustrated that
Okay.
positive -5 times -1. I can do that without using the multiplication symbol. Let's use a bracket. Still the same meaning. That should give me a
Mm.
+5.
So 1. Sorry, positive 5.
Yeah, and -4 times -2. That should be
Positive 8.
right. And I don't need to put the sign once it's after the equal. So it's understood.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And the division is the same thing. All right. The rule is the same for division.
Okay.
So if I had let's say -5 divided by -1, what should my answer be?
Positive 5.
Right. Negative divided by negative is positive, and 5 divided by 1 is 5. So +5. Good. And -10 divided by -2, what should the answer be?
Positive 5.
Right. Good. But what about if the signs are different now? Like
Then
if I
you
have
get a negative
-10,
answer.
right. So if I have -10 divided by 2, what would that be?
Negative 5.
Right. And it makes sense. Because 2
Mm-hmm.
times -5 will give us what?
5.
2 times -5 will give us -10.
2
Yes.
times, yeah, 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 yeah,
2
yeah, yeah.
times -5 will give us what? -10, right?
Negative 10, yeah.
Right. Or we can use what you learned earlier, right? We can use, well, let's stick to this. 2 times -5 will give us -10. So if you
Mm-hmm.
divide -10 by the -5,
Into
you
5.
get this +2 here.
Yeah, you get positive 2.
Yeah. And if I divide the -10 by the +2 itself, I'll get the other one, which is -5.
Negative 5.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if the signs are the same, you get positive. The signs are different, you get negative when you're actually doing what?
Negative answers.
Multiplying or dividing. Clear?
Yeah.
So when the signs are the same, the answer is positive for multiplication or division.
Mm-hmm.
When the signs are different, you get what? Negative.
Negative.
Yeah. In other words, negative divided by negative gives you positive. Just
Positive.
like negative times negative give you positive, negative divided by negative is also positive.
Positive. Mm-hmm.
Right. So the same rule applies for multiplication, applies for division.
For division.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Think you got that.
Yeah, I was getting it mixed up before in class.
Okay. All right. It takes a
So
little while, but
sometimes I would have my answer correct, but the sign
mm-hmm.
I would have the wrong sign. Therefore I would have gotten the whole thing wrong.
Right. The answer for that part, yes. So
Mm-hmm.
given that a is equal to -2, b is equal to -3, and c is equal to -1, determine the value of the following.
Determine the value.
Right. So this is just an example here. All right. So if you
Okay.
pay attention to this part here, right, and you have a plus b minus c. So a is what? -2.
Mm-hmm. -2
B is what? -3.
plus -3.
And c is -1, right?
Yeah, -1.
All right. So we can just put these in brackets that we substitute in there. So
Put it in bracket when you have the sign like that.
you're right. Probably to avoid confusion. You don't have to, but I think it
Yeah.
makes sense to do that.
Yeah, it clear in your mind.
Right. Avoid ambiguity. So -2 plus -3 minus -1. So let's do the first part. We're adding two numbers with the what?
Okay.
We're adding two numbers with
You're
the same.
adding two numbers
Focus on what we have down here, right?
with the same
So,
signs.
so we're gonna do what? Add and,
Put all the signs together, the same signs together.
or we can just simply say add and keep the sign, correct?
Yeah.
So that'd be -5. But I understand what you meant. So the signs are the same, so we're gonna use that sign. So
Yeah.
so -3 plus
And then with
-2.
the two negative signs, that will be plus.
Right.
Positive.
Right. Or
One.
we can say, okay, let's put it, but whenever we're subtracting, we can say we do what? Add the opposite. Remember that method as well we learned
Yes,
before
yes, yes, yes.
previously?
Yeah, you add the opposite. Yeah.
So we're gonna change subtraction to what? Addition,
Positive addition. Yeah.
and we're gonna add the opposite. What's the opposite of -1?
Plus.
What's the yeah? Give me the
The
opposite of
positive.
positive what?
1.
+1. Thanks. Right. So we just draw a line through the two negative, or the minus and the negative.
Yeah.
So subtracting a number is the same as adding the opposite of that number. So,
but let me ask you, I see you have a plus sign between the 5 and the 1, but there's a negative between the 3 and the 1.
go again.
Okay,
We're
you
looking at
have
up here, or are you looking down here? Down here, looking at?
down below by the
Okay.
the last part below there, -5 plus +1.
Right.
Right. So above that, right?
Yes.
In bracket, we have -3.
Mm-hmm.
Then -1.
Okay, so
like how the plus got there.
remember. Okay, read this for me. -2. Read it. Go straight down to -1. Read it. Let me hear.
-2 plus -3 minus -1.
Very good. So you realize you didn't read this minus as a negative, but you actually say minus. So so the minus here. Remember what we're saying. We have a subtraction. What do we do? We add the opposite.
When you add the opposite.
Right.
Okay.
So for subtraction, what you do, you add the opposite, and the opposite meaning the opposite of the number. So if it's -2, if it's -2, it becomes what? +2, right? If it's +2, it becomes -2. So add the opposite. So for subtraction, we're subtracting -1. We're gonna change the subtraction to what?
Positive.
Addition. Change. Remember, so subtraction, you add.
Addition.
Right. For subtraction,
addition, yeah, you add
the opposite. So for the subtraction here,
the opposite. Okay.
So for subtraction here, we're gonna add. What's the opposite of -1?
So if you're gonna change, so in other words, if you're gonna change, you have to turn that to an addition.
Yes. So in other words, let's look at several other things. Subtracting -2. What would that be? How else can we write this? We can change the subtraction to what?
Adding +2.
Adding +2. All right. If you're subtracting.
Okay.
If you're subtracting 3, what can you change that to?
If you're subtracting 3?
Yes, you can change that to what?
+3?
Well, remember we're changing subtraction to addition. So I want you to say addition first. Subtracting.
the 3 have a positive.
Okay, so subtracting +3 is the same as adding. And what's the opposite of
+3? Negative. Oh, okay. So, okay. So it's the opposite to what you do at the top there with the -2.
Right. So subtracting +3 is adding -3. Got it? So we're adding the opposite. So that, in other words, we're trying to avoid working with the subtraction sign. So we're going to replace subtraction with addition. And instead of the negative, we use positive. Instead of the positive, we use negative. So instead of -2, we use +2. Instead of +3, we use -3.
Oh, okay.
Got it?
Yeah.
Now this is a different method than what I taught before, what I taught before is what is illustrated here. All right? Like you just change the two signs together to one sign and you work with that afterwards. Yeah. So you can go back to that concept or way of thinking if that's a little more easier for you. But this is
Okay.
also straightforward, I find. So if you're subtracting,
Okay.
just change subtraction to addition and use the opposite. But
Mm-hmm.
nevertheless, the method the way in which I explained it before, that can also work.
Okay then.
Got it?
Yeah.
Okay, no problem. So do I go over this one more time, or you want to?
Yeah, you can go over it one more time.
Okay, sure. So let's go again. So we have a is equal to -2, b
Negative
is equal to
2
negative
plus
3, and
negative
c is equal
3,
to -1. Got it?
-1. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then we want to
Bracket.
find a plus b minus c.
Minus.
All right.
Yeah.
Let's substitute now. A is -2.
-2 plus -3
Mm-hmm. Minus what's
minus
c?
-1.
Right. Okay. So let's take it over here due to lack of
Okay.
space. -2 plus -3
-2.
minus -1. All right.
Yeah.
So we're adding. Do we need to change it? Are we good? Once
Adding
you have
and
addition,
keeping the sign.
right? Once you have addition sign, you're good. You know the rules, right? If you have
Yeah.
subtraction, we want to change that, right? In fact,
Change it.
let's rewrite everything and change the subtraction first of all. Let's change subtraction to what?
Positive
No, remember,
1.
if I say subtraction, the opposite of subtraction is not positive, but what?
Sorry. Oh my.
This
Is
does.
addition.
Thank you. So we're gonna change the subtraction to what?
Addition.
Right. And
Positive 1.
positive 1. Good. All right. So let's go now. So we have a -2 plus -3. Now we're adding two numbers
That's
with the
negative.
same sign. What do we do?
Yeah. -5.
-5, because we add them and keep the sign, correct?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Since they both have the
Plus
same
1.
sign, because they both have the same sign, the rule is to add them and keep the sign. But let's put back the positive
Yeah.
1, add in positive 1. I can put a positive sign here, but I don't have to. But let's put it there, right? Because
So the signs are different.
right, subtracting a -1 is the same as adding the opposite of -1, which is positive 1.
Yeah.
So now we're adding two numbers. We're adding what? This symbol means addition here. We're adding a
Yeah.
-5 to a positive 1, correct?
Yeah.
All right. So we're adding, what we adding?
-5
Mm-hmm.
to plus positive
Right.
1.
We're adding -5 to positive 1. What kind of signs? Do they have the same signs or different signs?
They don't have the same sign, so you have to subtract them.
Right. And when we subtract them, we get what? 4.
4.
And remember about what? Remember the concept of what? The absolute value now. Which one we're gonna keep?
Value, which is 4. The negative.
Right. Because -5 has a larger absolute value. Got it now?
Yeah.
All right. So it's a bit of thinking that you have to go through. And after you do it repeatedly and as you're working out the questions and you keep on saying the same principles in your mind, eventually you get faster at
becomes
it.
natural.
Yes, it becomes natural. It's like riding a bicycle. It's not easy the first time, but after a few attempts, you get better and better until you get it and you will never forget it again.
Yeah.
Maybe you might need to go and practice a little practice, but it comes faster the next time after a long
Yeah.
while of not using it.
Yeah.
So you good now?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay. All right, so that's just one method of how we can actually express this. But remember, I said I would have explained it differently before, and I'm not sure if that would confuse you necessarily of looking at it from a different
Back
perspective.
then, yes.
But
then, but now I get
yeah.
get how you do the signs.
Okay, so here's the other method that I use, or of explaining, I should say. It's the same steps. It might look a little different. Like we said, okay, all right, we're gonna take out this bracket, this -2 there, since there's no number in front of it. All right, and when we have the two signs coming together, like a plus with a minus, like this, look at it here. The plus with the minus, right? Or plus with negative, you're gonna get a minus. So you're gonna change that to a minus. These two work together to give you a minus sign, and you bring down the 3. These two work together to give you what?
A positive.
a plus sign,
A plus sign.
I put on the 1.
-1.
Right. So once you have the two signs there like that now in front, it's like you're saying -2 plus -3. Right? Which is still the same thing I'm saying
Okay.
up here. So the signs are the same. So what you need to do is to add the two numbers and keep the sign. Bring down the 1.
Mm-hmm.
The signs of the two numbers are different. So you're going to do what? Subtract and keep the sign of the 1 with
And
the
keep the sign of the
larger
absolute
absolute value.
value.
And you get -4.
Absolute value.
Right?
Yeah.
So this is another way of explaining it. I prefer this one
Mm-hmm.
in a sense because we kind of knock out the two signs, the double signs. But
Yeah.
it's kind of similar still because if you look at subtracting negative, it's adding the opposite, which would be adding a positive one. So different
Mm-hmm.
way of thinking, but the same results.
Mm-hmm.
But with the other method though, we actually move from the top here and go right down to this here. Because we said that we're adding two
Mm-hmm.
numbers with the same sign, so we add and keep the sign.
Mm-hmm.
So it depends on how you want to look at it.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So is that clear?
Yeah. I waiting to see if you're gonna give me any to do by myself.
Sure. Let's do that right now. I was just about thinking that too as well. Okay, let's look at this one. -5 plus -4 plus -3 minus -2. Let's see if how you
Okay,
handle that
I'm
one.
gonna write it down.
Sure.
Okay, so
You can use any method.
it's gonna
You can use this
be
method or you can use the previous one. Go ahead.
okay, so -5
Mm-hmm.
plus -4
Mm-hmm.
and then minus minus
Oh,
um
so go again. How do you read it? Go again. Let me hear you again, please.
minus
No, go back to the start. What did you say again? Go back to the start.
I said -5
Mm-hmm.
plus -4
Mm-hmm.
and then you have these two signs there.
Mm-hmm.
So it's gonna be the opposite. It's gonna be a change in it to a should I put the negative? The negative should be in brackets.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, you could. We don't have to put any of these in brackets, but I just put them to avoid the confusion of the plus and the negative signs or the minus and the negative sign.
Okay.
But so okay. So here's what I'm suggesting because I think you're looking at the two techniques I showed you, which can actually be confusing. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so which one do you want to use? Do you want to use where you have the two signs like this and just bring it to one single sign? Or do you want to use a concept
Yeah,
where you
that's
have,
what I want to do.
okay, so let's use that method then, right? Let's use that technique then. So we can do this one together and then I give you another one.
Okay.
But I'll ask you questions so you can actually say you're actually
Yeah.
doing it ahead of me. All right? So let's do that then. So what we're going to do, whenever we have the signs like this, a plus and a minus like that, or plus and negative, we
Mm-hmm.
use a minus. When we have a minus and a negative, we use a positive or plus. So in other words,
Okay.
these two signs, what we're going to bring them to?
A negative.
Okay, or we can say minus, right? These two signs, what we're going to bring them to? Same thing like this.
Minus.
Right, same concept because it's same plus outside, same minus or negative inside. All right, put a 3 down. And these two signs, what we're going to bring them to?
Plus. Addition.
Right, addition. That should be an addition of 2. All right. Then we're going to look at whether they're same signs or different signs. So we're going to treat the negative, the
Mm-hmm.
minus like a negative, okay? So what we can say here is
Yeah.
like a -5 plus -4 plus -3 plus 2, which is really what we have on top
Mm-hmm.
there, nevertheless. So let's work on that now. Mm-hmm.
So
Go ahead.
so that would be -9.
Right. Excellent. Mm-hmm.
Minus 3.
Okay, so you want to put that back, no problem.
Yeah, plus 2.
Okay,
And then
next.
I work it down below.
What's going to have here?
It's negative 12 plus 2.
Okay, good. And then what we can see here.
And then you subtract, so that would be negative 10.
Very good. All right, so I see you're using that last method there. I mean, the first method you learned before in class, which is good. That's awesome. All right. So we're talking about utilizing this method that is explained here.
Yeah, it's a little bit clearer when I have them in bracket than it being out like that.
Okay.
That's
All
how
right.
I understand it better.
No problem. All right. And then let us use this. We're gonna use the same thing here, because I think the fact that we use two different ways of explaining it probably can confuse you in the future. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna use the same method of explanation, doing the same thing that we have there. So let's -5 plus -4 plus -3 minus -2. Right? Let's use the same explanation that when we have a plus sign, so this is our plus, right?
Yeah,
So,
plus.
so this technique here that I taught you earlier is that once you have a plus, we're good. But when we have a minus, what do we do?
You change it
We change it to what?
to you change it to an addition.
Right. Minus, we add the opposite. So let's go. So we're going to write about the same thing. -5 plus
Addition
-4
of minus 2.
plus -3. So we're going to change this to what? Addition.
Addition.
Adding the what? Remember this keyword, you know. Adding
Adding 2.
adding
Adding 2.
adding 2. Adding the opposite. Very good. So put a plus. I'm gonna put a positive 2 there so that can show that we actually add
Yeah.
the opposite. Okay, good. So now what we're gonna do, let's apply the rule now. This is still addition. We're adding
Right.
the two numbers we're adding here. What that will become? We're adding two numbers with the same signs, correct?
Sign. So -9.
-9. All right. And let's put back this plus sign here.
Plus.
All right,
Yeah.
and let's look at these two numbers that we're adding now. This is addition sign right here again. We're adding what? -3 to +2.
Positive 2.
We're
But the
adding two
signs are
numbers,
different.
so we do what?
So you subtract them.
All right, and which one do we keep?
And keep the sign of the absolute.
The larger absolute value.
The larger absolute value, yeah.
Which
is
one?
negative.
Right. The -3 has a larger absolute value, so we keep the negative.
1, yeah.
Okay, so again, we're adding two numbers now again. We're adding -9 to -1. Again, because we have addition, we just follow the rule.
Yeah.
So
-10.
-10. Right. So you realize we use two different ways of explaining the same thing. Two different,
yes.
Which one you're more comfortable with?
This one here with the one that the first one.
The one over here? A or B?
Yeah.
You like
A?
This one is over here.
A. I prefer A.
Okay. All right. No problem. All right. So you can play over the video if you want to and check out B again. Same for the viewers if they want to do the same thing and use anyone. Yeah. Anyone is fine.
I still try to understand the B method.
Yeah, that's good. Can they come in handy sometimes? Because with the B method, I mean, we could have skipped this line here, the second line here, and go straight to the
yes. Right.
We just have to remember when you have a minus, you change it to adding the opposite. And if you remember, you have the opposite of the number that you're subtracting. So the opposite. So when you change minus to plus, you have to remember to change the sign of the number.
Change the sign over there as well. Yeah.
Yes, you have to change always. If it's positive, change to negative. If it's negative, change to positive. But change the minus to a plus first. All right. And then let's go now to binary operation. This is one that I say you want some clarity with, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's say we have binary. Basically,